Feel nothing. Control everything. It's not just a phrase. It's a survival law in the arena of power. Emotions, whether love, kindness, or empathy, are fragile currencies. They depend on someone else's reaction, someone else's willingness to keep feeding them. The moment the benefit, attention, or mutual need disappears, so does the emotion. And when it fades, betrayal is only one heartbeat away. In politics, in business, in any hierarchy where power decides survival, emotions are the first crack your enemies will look for. Love makes people surrender their own interests. Kindness becomes a habit others exploit. Empathy can be twisted into guilt or weaponized to pressure you. The one who leads with emotion becomes predictable. Predictability invites manipulation. The one who rules emotion, in themselves and in others, owns the field. Machiavelli said it plainly. It is much safer to be feared than loved, if one must choose. Why? Because love is voluntary. It shifts with the winds of self-interest. It lives only while you are giving. Fear, however, survives absence. Fear forces people to calculate consequences before they betray you. Fear stays when love evaporates. A leader who clings to love will one day find themselves at the mercy of those they once tried to please. A leader who uses love as a mask but roots their power in fear will endure far longer, even when the room grows cold. Consider the workplace. A team leader likes a certain employee. They're friendly, they've shared coffee breaks, but that employee is slow, careless, and late on deadlines. If emotion wins, the leader excuses them, covers their mistakes, hoping loyalty will be repaid. But performance drops, the team suffers, and the leader's authority erodes. If reason wins, the leader sets strict KPIs, issues warnings, and replaces them if there's no improvement. The team respects the standard. The leader keeps control. This is the first law of survival in the world of power. When you control emotion, you control the outcome. When emotion controls you, the outcome belongs to someone else. And that is why, if you want to survive, if you want to dominate, you must learn to feel nothing, control everything. If you're ready to go deeper into Machiavelli's timeless power laws, subscribe, like, and share this channel. Your support fuels the work we do and ensures these strategies keep coming to you unfiltered and unsoftened. Chuang. Feel nothing, control everything. In the arena of power, this is not a suggestion. It is the law. Machiavelli, in The Prince, delivers the blow with precision. If one cannot be both loved and feared, it is much safer to be feared. It is not poetry, it is survival mathematics. Love is fragile. It rests entirely on emotion and mutual benefit. It exists only as long as you give people what they want. The moment you stop feeding it, it starves. And when it starves, it does not die quietly. It turns, it betrays, it walks away without warning. Fear, on the other hand, is built on a different foundation, the solid ground of power and the clear awareness of consequences. It survives absence, it survives hatred, it survives even the erosion of respect, because the shadow of what you can do still stands in their path. In a world where fear is stronger than love, leaders who gamble on affection are playing with a weapon that belongs to someone else. Love depends on their will to keep it alive. Fear depends on your ability to maintain control. Love must be nurtured daily. Fear requires no constant feeding. It simply demands that the consequences remain real. In politics, in ruthless business wars, in any structure where control is currency, a leader who builds only on love can be undone the moment alliances shift. But the one who forges boundaries in steel, who writes rules that carry weight, who makes the cost of betrayal greater than its reward. That leader can hold position even in a room where no one likes them. This is not a call to cruelty without aim. Machiavelli warns that fear, if pushed into chaos, turns into rebellion. It is not about random punishment or reckless brutality. It is about precision, discipline, and psychological warfare. Fear is not simply making others afraid. It is the art of making them calculate twice before crossing you. It is a quiet power, a shadow always present in the room, making people weigh risk before they act. This is why fear, when properly maintained, creates a stable obedience that no love can match. Love asks for trust. Fear demands compliance. Love can be blind. Fear keeps eyes open. If you lead a team and allow emotion to override judgment, you have already lost the game. You may protect someone because you like them. You may excuse their repeated failure because of shared history. You think you are buying loyalty, but what you are truly buying is the slow decay of your authority. The others watch. They see your weakness. They calculate how far they can push. And in the moment of crisis, the ones you protected will still act in their own interest because love does not bind as tightly as consequence. But when you hold the line, when you demand standards and enforce them without hesitation, when you remove hesitation from your own decisions, the room changes. People step carefully. They measure their words. They respect the space around you because they understand that stepping over the line has a cost they are not willing to pay. The modern world hates this truth. It will tell you that love is the ultimate weapon, that empathy rules hearts, that kindness wins loyalty. That is the language of those who have never been in a real battle for control. In truth, love is a beautiful mask, but behind it, you must keep the steel. This is the balance. Use love when it serves you, withdraw it when it weakens you, and root your position in the one force that does not need to be fed every day. Love can make them follow you when it's easy. Fear will keep them from turning on you when it's not. You may not like the way this feels. Good. Discomfort means you are waking up. This is not about becoming a tyrant without thought. It is about refusing to be powerless. It is about mastering emotional control so completely that your enemies cannot read you, your allies cannot sway you, and your rivals cannot manipulate you. When you hold fear in one hand and silence in the other, you own the room without ever raising your voice. Remember this. When you control your emotions, you control the game. When emotion controls you, the game belongs to someone else. And if you want to survive, to rise, to command respect in a world where fear is stronger than love, you must learn to feel nothing, control everything. If you value this truth and want the full arsenal of Machiavelli's timeless power lessons, subscribe, like, and share. Every click tells us to keep bringing you strategies others are too afraid to speak out loud. Chuang Ku. Because in the game of power, truth is a weapon that only works when it's hidden. That's why the next principle is simple to name but deadly to master. Keep the image, hide the reality. Machiavelli taught that a leader does not need to truly possess every virtue, only to make others believe they do. The mask is not a decoration, it is armor. Outwardly, you project kindness, generosity, and fairness. Inwardly, you remain cold, calculating, and unshaken by sentiment. The masses judge by what they can see, and most will never look deeper. Show them what they expect, and they will lower their guard. Behind that lowered guard, you move freely, executing your strategy without resistance. This is the art of ruling without letting them know they are being ruled. The mask serves a single purpose: to disarm suspicion. In politics, in ruthless business, even in personal alliances, suspicion is the spark that ignites rebellion. Remove the spark, and you can control the fire. You do this by controlling perception. Let them see the open hand while the closed fist remains in the shadows. This is not dishonesty for its own sake. This is a controlled illusion. A survival tool in a world where fear, guilt, and hidden motives are the true currency of influence. To wield this well, you must become fluent in false signals. Smile when you need to. Offer sympathy when it secures loyalty. Display tolerance when it attracts allies. But never let these acts grow roots inside you. The moment you truly feel them, you have surrendered your most important asset, emotional control. This is the same skill that protects you from manipulation. The mask is not just for them, it is a shield for you. It stops others from reading your weakness, sensing your anger, or exploiting your hesitation. The most dangerous leaders are those who know how to simulate warmth but never let it burn them. They can shake your hand today and remove you from the board tomorrow without hesitation. Not out of cruelty, but because they understand the hierarchy of priorities. Power first, control first. Relationships are assets to be deployed, not debts to be paid. You may think this sounds ruthless. It is. But in a world where silence is power and emotion is weakness, this is how you survive. And there is danger here. When the mask slips, when the reality beneath is exposed, you lose both respect and fear in a single blow. People will see the gap between the image and the truth, and they will use it against you. This is why the mask must not be a costume you put on and take off. It must become second nature. A reflex. A part of you so ingrained that even in moments of pressure, you do not break character. The enemy cannot attack what they cannot see, and they cannot prepare for what they cannot predict. Do not mistake this for hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is when you preach virtue and fail to live it. This is different. This is about mastering the perception of virtue as a tool, wielding it to secure obedience and to guide the battlefield in your favor. In a negotiation, you may present as patient and reasonable while pushing terms that tilt the balance to your side. In leadership, you may appear forgiving while quietly isolating the threat that wronged you. In public, you may smile and speak of unity while preparing for decisive strikes in private. This is not lying. This is a strategy. In the Machiavellian view, truth is not owed to everyone. Truth is a resource you release only when it strengthens your position. Every other moment, you control what others see, because uncontrolled truth is a liability. This is why leaders who abandon the mask for authenticity often fall. They mistake raw exposure for strength, but in doing so, they surrender the very unpredictability that kept them untouchable. You may ask, isn't this exhausting? At first, yes, but mastery turns it into instinct. Like a sword fighter who no longer thinks about parrying, you will stop thinking about keeping the mask. You will simply wear it. This is when you become truly dangerous. When even you can no longer fully separate the image from the reality. And when that happens, no one else will either. This is how you keep the throne in a world where power is temporary and loyalty is conditional. Fear holds their actions. The mask holds their perception. Together, they make you untouchable. And that is the game. Chuang 3. But the game does not forgive hesitation, and it never rewards guilt. This is where the next law comes in. Remove guilt and hesitation. Guilt is not a virtue. It is a chain forged by culture, religion, and authority to keep you obedient. In the eyes of the strategist, guilt is a psychological shackle designed to slow your hand at the very moment you need to strike. Those who control the narrative of right and wrong control the emotions of the masses. And those who cannot free themselves from it will always serve those who can. A powerful mind understands that guilt is a weapon used against you, just like fear. It delays action, turns opportunities into regrets, and makes you predictable. Once someone learns that you can be manipulated through your conscience, they will play that note until you dance exactly as they wish. They will accuse you at the moment you are about to win, planting hesitation where there should be execution. They will frame your ambition as cruelty, your caution as cowardice, your strategy as betrayal. And if you believe them, you lose. In the world of power, benefit outweighs emotion. Sentiment has its place in private moments, but it has no place in decisive action. Before any move, ask yourself one question. Does this serve my objective, or does it serve my feelings? If it serves the latter at the expense of the former, you are feeding your enemy. This is how leaders fall, not from a lack of intelligence or resources, but from a single moment of hesitation caused by misplaced guilt. When guilt rises, dissect it. Is it born from your own code, or is it an echo of someone else's expectations? Much of what you call morality is not your own. It has been programmed into you to keep you tame. In the chaos of politics, the brutality of business, or the quiet wars of influence, so-called moral obligations, can be the perfect trap. They bind your hands while your rivals advance without mercy. This does not mean you abandon ethics entirely. It means you own them. You choose when to act with mercy and when to be ruthless, based on your will, not theirs. The difference is sovereignty. When you decide, you are free. When they decide for you, you are a prisoner in your own mind. And in a world where silence is power and emotional control is survival, mental imprisonment is worse than defeat. Fail to master this, and you will be surrounded by those who have. They will smile at you while maneuvering you into corners, forcing you to make concessions in the name of honor or compassion, knowing you lack the heart to break free. They will use guilt the way generals use siege weapons, not to destroy you outright, but to weaken you until you surrender. Removing guilt does not make you heartless. It makes you unshakable. It means that when the decisive moment arrives, you do not pause to question whether others will approve. You act. It means you stop bleeding power through hesitation and start directing it toward the outcomes you choose. It is the difference between being a leader and being led, between shaping events and being shaped by them. In the Machiavellian view, victory is its own justification. The world remembers results, not the moments you sat paralyzed by doubt. If you must feel anything, feel clarity. If you must hold anything, hold control. That is how you move without fear, without guilt, without chains. Because in the end, hesitation is death, and guilt is the slow poison that makes you welcome it. Chuang 4. Control of power begins with control of yourself, but true dominance comes when you can reach beyond your own mind and place your hand on the emotions of others. The strategist knows that the battlefield is not only made of steel and territory, it is made of guilt, doubt, and insecurity. These are not weaknesses to pity. They are tools to use. When someone feels wrong, uncertain, or unworthy, their guard drops without you having to lift a sword. Guilt is the invisible leash. Unlike fear, which demands your presence, guilt works even when you are silent. It forces the target to police themselves, to shrink their own actions so they don't offend you again. It makes them seek your approval like a prisoner begging for softer chains. A skilled manipulator understands this and does not waste energy on direct confrontation when a well-placed seed of guilt will make the enemy retreat on their own. Doubt is the shadow you cast over their certainty. When they question you, do not defend yourself in anger. Make them question themselves. Tilt your head, pause, and answer as if their challenge is beneath you, or worse, misguided. The silence between your words becomes a mirror in which they see their own insecurity. Soon they will ask themselves, was I too harsh? Did I misunderstand? Am I overreacting? Self-doubt does the work of disarming them without you ever touching their weapons. Insecurity is the slow erosion of their confidence. You do not need to attack it directly. Instead, highlight their mistakes subtly, compare them unfavorably to others, or praise someone else in their presence. The goal is not humiliation. Humiliation breeds rebellion. The goal is quiet submission, the kind born from feeling they are never quite good enough. People who feel this way seek validation, and when you control that validation, you control them. The true power lies in making them think the shift in behavior is their own choice. They will apologize when they should stand firm. They will try to make it up to you, even when you are the one who benefits. They will bend not because you forced them, but because you rewired the way they see themselves in relation to you. Once the leash is inside their mind, you no longer need to hold it. They hold it for you. But such control must be invisible. If they sense your hand too clearly, they will resist, and resistance born from betrayal is dangerous. The art is in subtlety, in letting time do the work. A single seed of guilt can grow into a forest of self-censorship if watered with calculated doubt. The enemy will walk into battles already half defeated, unsure of their worth, unsure of their judgment, unsure of whether opposing you is even worth the cost. This is not kindness, it is not cruelty, it is precision. In the world of psychological warfare, you win not by overwhelming force, but by quiet mastery over the emotional climate of the room. You turn people into their own prison guards, their own censors, their own saboteurs, and when they are finally yours to direct, you do not have to shout orders, you only have to let them feel what you want them to feel. In Machiavellian terms, this is the highest form of control, to shape the will of others without them realizing it. To make them act in your favor, believe it was their idea, and thank you for guiding them. That is how you secure the throne without ever drawing the blade, and how you keep it without ever letting go. Chuang 5. Silence is not absence. It is not a weakness. It is a blade hidden in the folds of your cloak, unseen until it cuts. In the realm of power, every word you speak is a bridge for others to cross into your mind. Every revealed plan is an open gate for an enemy to enter. Machiavelli understood that silence is not the refusal to act, but the choice to act without announcing. It is an offensive move disguised as nothing at all. In psychological warfare, silence is the fog before an ambush, the darkness before a strike. When you keep your intentions sealed, you deny your rivals the most precious advantage they could have: preparation. They cannot defend against what they do not see. They cannot block a move they do not know exists. This is why the strongest leaders and strategists reveal less than they know, speak less than they think, and act before anyone has time to brace. The most dangerous plan is the one no one hears about until it's already done. In a world where fear is stronger than love and where emotion makes you weak, silence becomes your shield and your sword. Silence works because it starves your enemies of information. Without it, they cannot form an accurate picture of your intentions. They begin to imagine threats that may not even exist, and in their overreaction, they make mistakes. A rival who is unsure of your next move cannot concentrate on their own. Doubt corrodes their discipline. Paranoia makes them waste resources. You control them without lifting a finger, simply by refusing to feed their hunger for clarity. This is the first stage of emotional control tactics, manipulating not through confrontation, but through the absence of it. To wield silence well, you must speak less than is expected. In conversations, leave gaps that make others guess what you meant. When questioned about your strategy, give an answer so vague it could mean everything or nothing. Let them fill in the blanks with their own fears. Your restraint will be mistaken for depth, your ambiguity for mastery. Meanwhile, you are studying them, reading their body language, their unconscious signals, noting every twitch of discomfort and every glance of uncertainty. Silence gives you time to measure the battlefield before committing your troops. Movement in silence is just as lethal. Do not broadcast your goals. Do not parade your victories. The loud man invites sabotage. The quiet one builds his empire unnoticed. This is why Machiavelli advised against revealing the heart of your ambition. When you move quietly, you avoid drawing opposition until you are too strong to be stopped. The art of psychological warfare is in making them see nothing until you have already surrounded them. Then, when you finally strike, it feels to them like the blow came from nowhere, because in their mind it did. But make no mistake, Silence is not passivity. It is not hiding in fear. It is calculated invisibly. It is the difference between a hunter stomping through the forest and one who moves like the wind through the grass. The loud hunter warns his prey. The silent one eats. If you fail to apply this, you will be read like an open book. Every ambition will be anticipated. Every move will meet resistance. You will lose the element of surprise, and in the language of war, surprise is worth more than strength. Those who master silence understand that it builds mystery, and mystery builds power. People respect what they cannot fully understand. They overestimate what they cannot clearly see. They will attribute to you more control, more intelligence, more danger than you actually possess, because their minds fill in the unknown with something greater than reality. And the more they do this, the more real it becomes. In the eyes of your rivals, you become the shadow in the corner of the room, present, silent, and impossible to ignore. This is why the greatest power moves are made without words. You wait, you watch, you learn. Then you act with precision, and by the time your opponent realizes what you've done, the game has already ended. You don't win because you are faster or stronger. You win because you made them play blind while you saw everything. Silence is not the absence of action. It is the perfection of it. Chuang, 6. Psychological warfare is not about the battlefield. It is about the mind. The most decisive victories are not won when swords clash, but when certainty collapses. Control what your enemy sees, hears, and feels, and you control what they do. Machiavelli understood this well. Fear of the unknown is stronger than fear of the visible. A man can prepare for a known danger. He cannot prepare for shadows. When the threat is unclear, the mind invents horrors greater than reality, and those horrors become chains. Uncertainty is your ally. When your opponent does not know what you are preparing, their imagination turns against them. They see ambushes in every shadow, betrayal in every silence. They second-guess their allies and question their own strategy. The fear you create is not just in their thoughts. It begins to seep into their actions. They hold back when they should strike. They defend when they should advance. And all the while, you are shaping the battlefield without lifting a blade. This is the essence of emotional control tactics, forcing them to react to possibilities, not realities. The pressure you create is invisible, yet crushing. Your opponent becomes distracted, unable to focus on their own objectives because they are too busy watching you. Every move you make becomes a signal they try to decode. Every pause becomes a riddle they cannot solve. They exhaust themselves in guessing games you have already rigged. This is why fear is stronger than love in the language of power. It commands attention, disrupts judgment, and keeps you in control without a single open confrontation. To use this, you must keep your information deliberately unclear. Let them rely on whispers and rumors instead of direct confirmation. Make them hear things they cannot verify, so they are forced to prepare for everything and ready for nothing. Change your tone without warning. Withdraw suddenly after a period of engagement. Introduce just enough unpredictability to make them question what they know about you. Your unpredictability becomes their prison because every strategy they plan is built on unstable ground. Always project the image that you know more than they do, that you are always a step ahead. This perception alone can paralyze a rival. If they believe you see the whole board while they only see pieces, they will hesitate to move for fear of falling into a trap. And every moment of hesitation is a moment you can exploit. This is psychological warfare at its purest, not to crush the body, but to erode the will. When done correctly, the results are decisive. The enemy becomes slow, indecisive, and overly cautious. You, in turn, maintain the psychological high ground. They move in reaction to you, never forcing you to react to them. This keeps you in the position of choosing the time, place, and nature of every engagement. In war, business, or politics, control is everything. The one who dictates the rhythm of conflict already holds victory in their grasp. But power without discipline is chaos. If you push too far, if you create too much fear, you risk driving your opponent into desperate, reckless action. A cornered enemy may be dangerous, not because they are strong, but because they have nothing left to lose. Psychological warfare demands patience, precision, and restraint. You must apply enough pressure to keep them off balance, but not so much that they stop playing the game by your rules. Control their perception, control their emotions, and you control the outcome. This is not a weapon you hold. This is the battlefield itself, and it belongs to you. Chuang. Fear is a weapon, but without discipline and strategy, it becomes a fire that burns uncontrollably, even consuming the one who lit it. Power without control is not power at all. It is noise, chaos, and eventual collapse. A leader who lets fear and anger dictate their moves will destroy their own credibility faster than any enemy can. Machiavelli understood this truth. Emotions are tools, not masters. To rule, you must be the one holding the reins, never the one being dragged. Discipline is the shield that protects your authority from your own impulses. It stops you from striking in anger when patience would win more. It keeps you from speaking when silence would create greater tension. This is not weakness, it is precision. When fear is applied with control, it does not explode in a single moment of intimidation. It simmers over time, shaping perception, creating loyalty through respect and obedience through calculated unease. Discipline ensures that fear is not wasted in bursts, but invested for maximum return. Strategy is the hand that guides this process. It is the knowledge of when to appear merciful and when to appear merciless. It is the skill of reading the temperature of the room and deciding whether to raise it or cool it. A disciplined leader can shift from warmth to ice in a heartbeat, not because emotions are running wild, but because every shift serves a purpose. This is the art of emotional control tactics, choosing the moment, tone, and scale of every action so that each one builds toward the ultimate objective. Without discipline, fear degenerates into terrorism. It stops inspiring respect and starts breeding rebellion. Subordinates will obey out of desperation, not loyalty, and the moment your grip weakens, they will turn on you. Without a strategy, even the strongest surge of dominance will fade, leaving nothing but instability. Power built on erratic behavior collapses because no one can predict it, trust it, or align with it. The loss of consistency is the loss of authority. A disciplined leader moves with purpose, never out of impulse. They decide their actions in service of the larger game, not the momentary emotion. They calculate the consequences of every command, every punishment, every silence. They do not simply seek victory in one battle. They shape the entire war. They understand that the perception of control is often more important than the reality of it. This is why fear is stronger than love for maintaining control, but only when it is paired with clarity of direction and self-mastery. The practice is simple in design, but demanding in execution. Keep your ultimate goal in focus at all times. Refuse to let temporary emotions override the path to that goal. Holding your tongue when speaking would weaken your position. Delay punishment until it has the greatest psychological effect. Always measure the long-term outcome against the short-term satisfaction of acting now. And above all, remember that the enemy is not only outside, you are also fighting the part of yourself that craves instant release instead of enduring control. When discipline and strategy work together, fear becomes a scalpel, not a sledgehammer. You cut only where it matters, and every cut changes the course of the game. Your authority becomes unshakable because it is built on predictability in your purpose, yet unpredictability in your methods. Your rivals hesitate not because you are loud, but because you are precise. This is the path from raw emotion to refined power. To feel nothing is not to be empty. it is to be unshakable. To control everything is not to micromanage. It is to decide the very frame in which the game is played. And in that frame, you are always the one holding the final move. Chuang 8. To become untouchable is the final stage of power. It is not simply about winning battles or surviving challenges. It is about shaping the entire field so that nothing can threaten your position. In the Machiavellian sense, this is the fusion of the fox and the lion, cunning enough to outwit any rival, strong enough to crush any resistance. The fox sees the trap before stepping into it. The lion tears it apart if needed. Together, they create a leader who is both feared and respected, admired and avoided. An untouchable figure does not merely adapt to their environment, they bend it to their will. They are not reactive, they are the architect of every move, the silent force that decides which opportunities exist and which disappear. This requires absolute emotional control. Praise does not inflate them. Criticism does not provoke them. They are immune to flattery and unmoved by insults. The world can try to shake them, but they remain still because their stability is a weapon. They reveal nothing that can be used against them. No weakness, no hesitation, no uncontrolled reaction. Every emotion is masked, every intention hidden. This is not coldness for its own sake, it is survival at the highest level of power. The less others know, the less they can predict, and the more they fear. The untouchable leader operates behind a perfect facade, the mask of benevolence that wins allies, backed by the unspoken threat of swift and decisive punishment for betrayal. To maintain this position, the strategy must be constant. The mask and the hidden blade work together. The public image projects fairness, strength, and vision. The shadow behind it ensures no rival dares to test it. Information is the lifeblood of power, and an untouchable figure is always ahead because they know more, sooner, and act before others realize the game has changed. They never wait for opportunity, they create it, manipulate it, or eliminate it. Every decision is measured not only for immediate benefit, but for its long-term reinforcement of control. The results speak for themselves. Enemies hesitate, unsure of the cost of challenging you. Allies remain loyal, not just out of affection, but out of the understanding that betrayal would be a fatal mistake. Respect becomes default, not something you must demand. Your presence alone alters the behavior of the room, because people instinctively know they're standing in front of someone who cannot be moved. In this state, power is not a performance. It is an atmosphere. You do not need to raise your voice to command attention. You do not need to prove yourself because your track record, your precision, and your reputation speak louder than any speech. The untouchable figure understands that fear is stronger than love when it comes to maintaining control, but they also know fear must be refined through discipline and direction. Raw fear without strategy turns into chaos. Calculated fear becomes a permanent structure that supports your authority. To achieve this, you must master both sides of power, the visible and the invisible. The visible is the face you show the world, the version of you that wins admiration and influence. The invisible is the network of knowledge, the capacity for decisive action, and the quiet readiness to destroy threats before they can grow. This duality makes you unpredictable, yet reliable, feared, yet sought after. It is the paradox that keeps others dependent on your stability while respecting your ability to dismantle them. Becoming untouchable is not about never being attacked. It is about ensuring attacks have no effect. It is about creating a psychological reality where even the thought of opposing you feels like defeat. You do not just hold power. You define the very rules of the game. And when you reach that point, you are no longer chasing control. You are the center of gravity, the force everything else must orbit. That is when you truly feel nothing, control everything, and stand as the one figure no one dares to challenge. Kate Lusan. In the end, the death of wisdom is not a mystery, it's a strategy. We've seen how fear is stronger than love, how illusion can mask reality, how guilt is a weapon, how silence is power, and how emotional control is the highest form of dominance. The modern world doesn't reward depth, it rewards noise. And in that chaos, those who master emotional control tactics, psychological warfare, and silent domination rise above the herd. They don't just survive mass ignorance, they shape it to their advantage. If you take one practice from this entire video, let it be this. Before you react, pause. That pause is your fortress. In it, you strip away emotion, measure the battlefield, and choose the move that serves your long-term power. It might be action, it might be silence, but it will never be an impulse. This is how you stop being the hunted and become the one no one dares to hunt. Remember, leaders who hide emotions don't do it because they feel nothing. They do it because they control everything. Fear without strategy collapses into chaos, but fear with discipline builds an empire no one can breach. If you want respect that lasts, you must first become untouchable, not in body, but in mind. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these power principles will you start practicing today? Have you seen fear, guilt, or silence used as tools of control in your own life? Share your story in the comments. I read them all, and if you're ready to go deeper into the strategies that make you impossible to break, hit that subscribe button now. The world is full of noise. Here, we train for power.